Do you ever feel like most financial advice assumes you want 2.5 kids and a house in the suburbs? Nicole Meyhofer, founder and financial advisor at Provest Capital, has a different approach. She helps you build a financial plan around your values, not someone else's expectations. Whether you're building a life without kids, enjoying solo adventures, or just want to live off your investments right now, Nicole aligns your money with what matters most to you. Curious Life listeners can now access her free private podcast series at provest.com/insider, where she covers everything traditional financial advice skips. Nicole Meyhofer is an investment professional registered at IHT Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor with the SEC. IHT Wealth Management may only transact business in states it is registered or qualified for an exemption or exclusion from registration. Welcome to Curious Life of a Childfree Woman, a podcast exploring today's most interesting topics through the lens of a happy child-free life. Every week, I chat with experts inspiring us to think differently, live intentionally, and find fulfillment on our terms. Whether you're child-free or seeking a space where parenthood isn't part of the conversation, you are welcome here. It's not about comparison, it's about possibility. Before we start the episode, do you know about the Curious Life Club on Substack? It's a free community to enjoy bonus content and sneak peeks, and to connect with other cool women like you. Join us at CuriousLifeOfAChildFreeWoman.substack.com. Now let's get curious together. The Pew Research Center did a study in 2023 on the state of friendship in America, and 61% of participants stated that having close friends is extremely or very important for a fulfilling life. 61% of people feel friendship is critical to feel fulfilled. That number largely overshadowed other priorities like marriage, which came in at 23%, children at 26%, and even wealth at 24%. And I was especially surprised by those last two numbers. So this tells us that friendship is meaningful to all of us, but maintaining strong friendships through the complicated seasons of life is not always easy. Nina Badzin has been writing and teaching about friendship for more than a decade. She's the host of the fabulous podcast, Dear Nina, Conversations About Friendship, where she talks honestly about what it means to find your people and keep them when life gets messy. Her work isn't about perfect friendships, it's about real ones, the kind that grow, change, flourish, or sometimes fall away, and how those relationships shape who we become. Welcome, Nina.
Thank you for having me. I was just taking a note on something you said. Those numbers surprised me too. And you might be surprised. I don't dabble much in numbers because sometimes people will pitch me to be on my show and they'll say, I want to come on and talk about why friendship's important, or I want to come on and talk about that it is necessary for our health. And I always think that is the premise of my entire show. That is not an episode. And it is still interesting to hear the numbers attached to it, though, even though I don't often say them because I just feel like, of course, is the answer to that.
Right. And it's one of those things. I think that study is interesting because it speaks to competing priorities, or maybe how we feel things compete. Marriage, children. Obviously, here we talk about our child-free perspective, and then friends, and then there's career, and there's self-care, and there's everything else. And I feel like sometimes that can be a barrier or a boundary that makes it harder to maintain friendships. But you're the expert on this. So can you start by telling us, why is it hard to maintain friendships? What gets in the way?
Well, unfortunately, friendships are made up of people. People are finicky and difficult and want to be chosen. I actually think that is a really big element that is a problem, is this idea that everybody wants to be picked, everybody wants to be sought after, and many people are measuring their friendships that way. Did that person call me as much as I called them? Are they texting back as quickly as I text? And we forget that we are all individual people and we all do everything differently. We approach careers differently. We approach our choices about family life differently, which is pertinent to this podcast for sure. We exercise differently. Habits and ways we live our lives, we perform life differently, and friendships the same way. I often use texting as an example because I'm a very fast texter. Very fast. It's not necessarily because I'm so considerate and I'm always thinking about what my friends think. I think I probably have some undiagnosed OCD that I cannot stand having an unread text on my phone. Really, it bothers me. Could be from anybody. It could be a sale from the Gap. I will swipe it away. I can't stand it. And so a lot of times I respond quickly just to get rid of it. And because I don't want to forget, because I do care about my friendships, of course. Well, somebody else who might not text back as quickly, equally the opposite reason, they may just be able to tolerate unread messages more. Doesn't mean that they like me less. They just have a different phone habit than I have, or remembering things that are outstanding. A new thing when you're driving, at least my car, the CarPlay will read or message to you if you press it. But then when you go back later on your phone, it's not new anymore. It's shown as read, and then you may forget to respond. The regular person, that might not bother them, but I do worry a little bit. Oh, I don't want to forget. So I do tend to respond when I see something and I'm holding my phone. That's a very long-winded, just little example that I think is relatable because we're putting so much meaning into the fact that we're just all different. So measuring your friendship by this person does things exactly the way I do things, therefore we're close friends, is a dangerous way to go. And I think it does get in the way of maintaining friendships. Because where friendship is so beautiful compared to maybe a romantic relationship is we get to have many of them for many different reasons to fulfill many different parts of ourselves. And we get into trouble when we expect each person to do all the things, to be the great texter, to be the one who reaches out, to always be up for stuff. And I have more to say about a better way to measure the friendship than how well the person keeps in touch, for example, but I can wait till we get there.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's go there because I think even the way you're using the word measure, which is so real, that scenario you just described, or I'm always on time to pick up this person, they're never on time when they come to pick up me. Any little thing that we feel is a difference, we do start to measure. I'm a better friend. I care about this more than they do. And even if intellectually we know that's wrong, I think it's such human nature. But then we run the risk of only being friends with people who are just like us. Because, oh, I love hanging out with her. She always picks me up, or she always wants to go exactly where I want to go, or we're always hungry at the same time. These are things I've actually talked about with friends, but I don't want to just exist in a world where there's six of us that are exactly the same and we do everything together. That feels like we'd be missing the point. How do we think about this differently?
Friendships are here not just to entertain us and make us feel good, but also to help us grow. So I love what you said. Exactly. If everybody was just like us, we would never grow and we would be missing a huge point of friendship in our lives to push us to grow. So a better way to measure a friendship of somebody where, let's say, you feel like you're the one who always texts first. It's one of the number one search terms on my site because I've been writing about friendship for over a decade. And so now just SEO wise, a lot of things land to me and I can see what people are searching. Anyone with a website can see that. So it's any form of this. My friend never texts me first. I always reach out first. If I stop texting, would we still be friends? Question mark. That people are searching that. And I often see advice telling people if the friend would never text you first, if you stop texting, you're not really friends. I just disagree with that. I think you might be friends with someone who's less organized than you are. But there are other ways to tell. So if you're someone who's just really organized and it's more important to you to get together because you just like to have your calendar full, let's say, then will the person always respond enthusiastically? If you put out a date, do they say, I can't do this date, but I can do that date? When you are together, is that person listening, attentive, asking really great follow-up questions? To me, those are equal to as if they reached out first. And I think we need to stop measuring sameness. So fine, I reached out first every time, but you were a wonderful dinner companion. Good enough. That's a good friendship. And we get into issues for no reason. Now, I will say, if you always reach out first and the person kicks the can down the road always, or always cancels or cancels a lot, when they go, they're on their phone their entire time, then I would question the friendship, but not just because of the reaching out issue. That's just one piece of a much larger puzzle.
Good enough is a really important phrase. There's so much pressure on so many pieces of our lives. If we can relax a little bit about this and let it go. When I realized what introvert and extrovert really meant and how they play with our energy, and it's not about being outgoing or being quiet, I am a textbook extrovert. Every single thing about me, I need people. So I am often the one that's reaching out more or trying to initiate plans or come up with ideas because I need it. That fuels me. And if I look at a weekend and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's nothing going on, I don't have anything planned, that makes me scared. What am I going to do? A weekend all alone doesn't fill my cup. I can do it. I'm not going to die, but it doesn't bring me joy. It doesn't fill up my social battery, right? then I start texting everybody who's around, who's available. I feel like I had to learn both of those pieces together so that I wasn't getting mad. Well, nobody's texting me. I just need time with them. Maybe to them, they saw me 2 months ago and that's plenty. But I'm seeing an empty weekend on my calendar and I'm like, let's hang out again. So I initiate.
So great that you do that. And I bet you do have friends who are so happy and grateful that you take that upon yourself. I had an episode once just about this. Each of my episodes are really narrow, and the topic was specifically the friend who never texts first. And somebody called in. I have a Facebook group where people talk about these issues, and I asked on there, could you call in, like old fashioned call, and bring up the other point of view if you have it? So, someone who's very introverted, energy wise, she's actually really fun, so funny. I've known her a long time, but she likes a lot of alone time and would be just fine with that empty weekend. Again, we're all different. And she spoke from the other point of view and said, I am so happy when my friends reach out. I love to see my friends, but I also would be just as happy sitting home and reading all weekend. So, yeah, I'm never going to be the one that reaches out first. And it would be probably ideal if she would come a little closer to the middle on that, just because we are all human and it's hard not to take it personally. So, most evolved thing I think would be if someone could say, I realize I don't need this, but I know that my friends need to hear from me. I mean, that's real empathy, but it's easier to control yourself and not need that from our friends as much. To just say, I want plans, I'm going to make plans. I say that a lot to people. If you want plans, make plans. No waiting for invitations. I am huge on that. It only depends on you.
It's such solid life advice. And that realization really changed my life. And I think the honesty here is really critical too, because I have no problem owning that I like to be with people. I like to have people over. It's important to me. I will reach out. And I also have very introverted friends who have said that they appreciate it, but they also have set a boundary that sometimes they're just going to tell me they can't on Thursday. And we're not going to go through the rigmarole of coming up with an excuse or saying maybe I will when they know they're not going to, because they are introverted and they don't want to do something on Thursday night, period. And that's okay with me too. I would much rather somebody say no thanks than come hang out with me and me suck the life out of them accidentally. I'm not trying to do that. But I feel like those conversations, even this person who's in my mind as I'm talking, we were friends for years before we made this agreement together. And it's weird because, in one way, friendships are so close. We tell each other the most weird, intimate, personal stuff, but it feels like it can be really hard to have the harder conversations about the friendship, like boundaries and preferences and personality. How do we do that?
That is hard. I read something recently that said something really well, which was as hard it is to have a direct conversation with somebody, it's only going to be that much harder if you avoid it. Using my own words, but that was the gist. I thought that was well said. It's a good way of thinking about it. It's a good way to get some courage to have a little bit of a hard conversation, because otherwise things just fester. And anything later, when that gets pushed down, is going to be way harder than that bit of an uncomfortable conversation. You just have to push ourselves to have a hard conversation, and always begin with, this is because I care about our friendship. Anything that starts with that, I think, can survive. Thinking of a scenario like yours, I could see saying, if you already had this conversation, obviously, or you guys worked it out somehow, but for other people who are maybe dealing with a difference in how much you like to be together, or how much one reaches out and how much the other reaches out. I've even told people who feel like they're always the one who reaches out, it is okay to say to a friend, I realize I like to go out more, or I want to see people a lot more. It would be helpful for me to know every once in a while that you genuinely want these invitations. And it could even just be that we're having this conversation right now, and tell me right now and I won't ask you again. You give people an opportunity to say what you need them to say, but then you have to drop it and accept that you're going to reach out more, period.
What do you say to people who maybe one person wants to take the friendship deeper, wants to go to a different level? And I'm thinking we have all these maybe acquaintances that we consider friends and we've been in each other's lives for a while. We know them, but it's always surface level and we're just talking about the weather, but we spend a lot of time near them. What do you do if I would like to become closer? I would like to talk about more real things, but maybe they feel like, what if the other person doesn't? How do you navigate that?
You only know by testing the waters. And I don't think I've ever had somebody directly say to me that they want to get closer. You just know by the amount of effort they're putting in. And again, effort, like we've been talking about, can look like two things: reaching out more, but also when you're together, really being tuned in and asking follow-up questions. The follow-up question is the key to a closer friendship. It's not just the initial question. And I've been focusing on this a lot on the podcast this month and on questions specifically. And there is research. It's in the book Talk by Allison Wood Brooks. The book is called Talk, and she's a professor at Harvard Business School. And the A in Talk stands for asking questions. It's the whole book's about the art of conversation. And the study shows that people ask way fewer questions than they think they're asking. They really recorded these conversations people were having over a long period of time and then gave the people surveys. How many questions do you think you asked? How attentive do you think you were? And almost across the board, people overstated the number of questions they asked. It was significant. And it's a good lesson for all of us that I think a lot of people are nervous to ask too much because they think they're being intrusive, but most people are thrilled to share and talk about themselves if they're asked. But the question is important, the kind of question. So the key is in the follow-up. So to someone who out there who's trying to get closer to someone, I would say focus on two things: follow-up questions and more time together. It takes about 200 hours. So funny because I told you at the beginning, I don't focus on numbers that much. And here I am giving you a lot of numbers, but it takes 200 hours to get close to somebody, really close. So if you work with them, let's say, that's going to happen faster. Back when we were in college, it happened much faster. You live in the same building. If you're young, you're in the same apartment building. In adult life, if we're living apart, that takes much longer. So the only way to get to those 200 hours is to schedule things. Schedule walks. There's an hour. Schedule a lunch. The best thing ever is if you can sign up for something together that meets regularly, where the scheduling is completely out of your hands. Scheduling is the worst part of friendship. It is the hardest part of maintaining, which is what we're talking about here. So if you could take the guesswork out of scheduling, meaning the two of you are in some class together that you decided to take, and not an exercise class necessarily, unless you're going to do something together after. Hours on a spin bike next to each other don't necessarily count. You have to be talking and doing something. So signing up for a class with a friend that you want to get to know better is fantastic because you are going to continually see that person. The hours add up. I didn't really answer your question about how to let a person know or if one person wants to, but these were just different ways to take things to another level with a person. It just takes a lot of time. People shouldn't feel bad when it feels like things are surface for a while, because they are going to be. They're going to be surface for a while until people feel really comfortable. I wouldn't go right in with a deep question or with a ton of follow-up questions. Ease into it.
This 200-hour thing, I feel like you're unlocking something for multiple reasons. One, it gives us permission to let it be surface level at the beginning because we know the time is the whole thing. That's what begets the closeness in the relationship. There's been a little bit of a trend out in the culture with people saying they hate small talk. And they're like, I don't do small talk. I only do big talk. I've heard people say that. First of all, I love small talk, like chit chat. I'm here for it. As an extrovert, it's power to me. I don't care what we're talking about. But the point of that is they don't want to spend time in the surface level stuff. They want to dig in deep and really get to know somebody. But I don't understand how you do that successfully just right off the bat and jump into these big, hard questions about the universe and where you see yourself and politics and all these things. So I feel like this is more realistic. Just accept that it's going to take the time. You don't have to pride yourself on getting into rich, in-depth debates in the first 5 minutes. Let it take the time and build that time with intention.
We measure a lot of new friendships by the friends we've had in the past, close friends, and we forget how those started. You weren't right away getting to the deep stuff. And if it's a childhood friend, that's just different. You can't compare adult friend making to the person you grew up with down the street or went to school with or camp or even college. College is such a unique time because everybody is starting fresh. Even if you know some people from your high school, we are coming to college with this attitude of friend making. In our adult lives, everyone's on a different stage of that. Somebody might have moved to a new town. I moved to Minneapolis 25 years ago. I definitely was barking up the wrong tree when I was first trying to make friends because I was trying to make friends with people who've lived here a long time. And I used to have a real chip on my shoulder about that. Minneapolis is known as a place that's hard to meet people, but I actually defend it now. I'm like, no, every place where you go and you're new, if you're trying to be friends with people who've lived there for a long time, is hard to meet people, including New York City. It's best to meet people who are also new. or for whatever reason have a new space in their life. They are recently divorced. They're starting a new career and they just have a different mind frame of newness to them. It's all about being in the same stage of openness. It doesn't have to literally be new to the town. But yeah, that's my advice on getting closer is, first of all, make sure you are trying to spend time with someone who has time. They may not be interested in you. You'll just feel that out as it goes forward, but they need to have time for those 200 hours to add up to hang with you. And yeah, small talk, it's going to start with small talk. It's how we get a feel. I mean, there is something called chemistry that is real. And you can have wonderful, wonderful chemistry with somebody, but if it's impossible to get together with them because they live really far, that's a whole other topic. By the way, proximity is major for friendship because of these hours. The hours really are huge. If someone lives far away, it just makes it hard to add that time up. So that good chemistry cannot really overcome a lack of proximity or a lack of that person having time for you. It's just reality.
That's the perfect segue into the, I'm going to say divide, sometimes feels like a divide between friends where one person has a kid and the other person doesn't. And this topic is really hot in the child-free community because a lot of child-free people, of course, have friends who are parents. And over time, we can look at our social circle. And at one point, we were all child-free. And then that percentage changes. And I have friends who feel like they're the only one, right? Or people who DM me listening to the show. There's nobody left, right? I'm the only one out of my friends, or the only one in my family, or even it seems like the only one in my town who doesn't have a baby by this age. And then parents are obviously on their own track and they have newness in a different way with welcoming new humans into their family. And I think it's so fraught with feelings on both sides. And people feel left out. Some people wish they were included more. Some people don't want to be included. And they're like, why are you inviting me to this baby thing? I don't like babies. And other people are like, I can't believe you didn't invite me to the birthday party. I've been hoping to be an aunt to this kid since I found out about them. There's certainly no one way. It's so complex. But this point of time that you're making, this is a huge part of the thing, right? We feel like we have time, we have space, and now this person has less of that for us.
You're absolutely right. There's that resentment that grows on both sides. I actually just had someone on my podcast talking about this. She also is child free. I don't know if we mentioned this in the intro, but I have 4 kids. And I think that's something that's important to bring up in this conversation because I can understand the other point of view, but I haven't lived that point of view. And I think it's important to say that. She's about 60 now. So she feels she's on the other side of it where her friends who have kids, which was most of her friends, she said more than a majority, like I think almost all of her friends have kids, and they were friends she's had for a long time. And she said at first she felt, where'd you go? And she didn't realize how long it was going to take to feel like the kids weren't taking a lot of her friends' time. But the resentment she also felt was that there was this assumption that she had all the time in the world and that she would drop anything. I totally get that, right? That would be really annoying to have your friends cancel on you because they feel like, oh, you can so easily reschedule or you won't mind. And she said there was a lot of canceling. And of course, she understood that their time wasn't totally theirs. It came down to communication. That was her number one lesson to me in that episode was is all about communication. That was her advice to other people trying to manage a friendship where one has kids and one doesn't. People need to hear. It's like the example I gave earlier where you need to say to your friend, yes, I know I reach out all the time. I just need to know sometimes that you actually want these invitations. So I'm not wasting my time. That conversation needs to happen too, which is, I don't want to feel taken for granted. And I really miss you. I just need to hear once in a while. It could be a text. I miss you. I'm thinking of you. And the person who is child free doesn't want to always have to be the person doing that. And that person might have to say to their friends who are bogged down in child land, I don't want to feel like you forgot me. Sometimes we just have to say the thing. That is part of it. I don't want to feel forgotten. I don't want to feel taken for granted. I don't want to wait for 20 years till this kid is out of the house. This friendship is important to me. Danny Alpert is her name. That's the author. She really said that. She said to her friends, I am not going to lose this friendship. I'm going to do everything it takes to keep this friendship. What's it going to take? And they would talk it through. What's it going to take?
It's so beautiful. And communication is everything. And I know we're all learning that at different points in different places. And when my first close friend told me she was pregnant, best friend who was having a baby, and this was many years ago now, I handled it horribly, which I have apologized to her about since. I really freaked out. I eventually started crying.
Yeah, it's curious what that looks like, handling it horribly. I love that you can tell it because it's so helpful to other people. So I'm sorry to interrupt you. You said you cried.
I cried.
That's probably not the best response.
Right. It's her exciting news, right? Her exciting moment. And I'm sure she expected that I would be thrilled and over the moon. It started with shock. I don't know what I thought that she was going to call me before she got pregnant to explain to me. Now they're trying to get pregnant. I just felt like I was somehow going to be on the inside scoop of this more than I was, which I know sounds insane, but it's the truth.
I get that. I have felt that way. This is like what real friendship is like when we get off on a tangent. When somebody tells me, we bought a house, and I had no idea they were even looking, and we're good friends, it does make me go, well, all these times that you've been going to look at a house, you never said anything. It feels strange to me because I'm such a sharer. I would never, if I were looking for a house, everyone on the planet would know. And I'm not saying that's such a great thing. It's so good with our theme here of not everyone does life like we do. It doesn't make it right that I would tell everyone, but because that's what I'm like, I mean, those of us that's a podcast are obviously a little bit like that. Because that's what I'm like, it's always surprising to me at first. Oh, other people are more private. And then I admire it and feel jealous of it. I'm like, wow, that must be interesting to go through your life being able to do things without a group consensus. Good for you. You can have a baby without telling me. You can buy a house without telling me.
Thank you for relating to me on that because I feel that you and I are similar. And yeah, I share everything. I mean, I was out for drinks last night with friends. One friend who I had never met, this is like a new to me person. And I ended up talking about my IUD at the dinner table. So I'm out there with everything. And I do have to remember and respect that that is not how other people live their lives. So at first I was shocked that I wasn't along for the journey. And then I just started to feel so sad for our relationship. I just started to feel really upset that this was the end of an era and everything was going to change. And she and I had a unique friendship where we had worked together, we traveled the world together, we've gone on vacation together, we've done a lot of really cool things, and I loved it. Our friendship is the best. So my reaction was offensive in the way I was handling it, but it was coming from a place that our friendship means so, so much to me that I panicked that I was going to lose this precious thing that I care about to this pregnancy and then to her being a parent. I articulated some of those fears in the moment. I'm like bawling my eyes out. It'll just never be the same. And she's having to talk me down again in her big moment. And then as the years have gone on, she has 2 kids now, and we have remained incredibly close. I think it's important to give her a lot of credit in that. And the whole journey has been a huge learning experience for me in remembering my responsibility to her interests. And I think sometimes in the child free space, and I'm not calling people out, but I think it's easy for us to do this unintentionally because we're child free and we feel like, okay, we have this lifestyle. You had it with me, and then you left. You went to go do this other thing. I don't know that it's necessarily resentment, but I think we can forget that we owe our friend the love and excitement and interest and compassion and empathy for this new thing that they're going on a journey with, just as we would if they were buying a new house or if they were getting a new job or if they were starting a podcast. If she would have told me any one of those things, even if they were moving away, that happens with friends. I have moved cities and worked to maintain friendships. It's not as emotional, right? It feels like, oh, okay, this is a new thing, but we're not going to lose our friendship because you have a job that works twice as many hours. Of course not. We'll just work through it. We'll work around it. And I think we need to treat our friends having a baby the same way. And that means asking about the baby and asking stuff that maybe I don't have context or I don't even know what to ask or what to say or what's appropriate. Who cares? I need to show an interest in this part of their lives just as much as I would for any other subject.
Yeah, and it would be bizarre if somebody without kids never asked their friends who have kids about the kids, just like the opposite. It would be strange if the person who had the kid only talked about the kid. It's equally an issue. So everyone needs to show interest in each other's life. One thing you said is so key. I love it so much. I'm going to quote it elsewhere. It's just common sense, but said so well, which is the friendship is going to change. And now I don't remember exactly how you said it, but yes, the friendship's going to change, period. And that's okay if you talk about it. And friendships always change for all those reasons you said. And it doesn't have to be a crisis. It would be unusual for a friendship to never change because we change. Because again, we're just people and people change. And so the relationship is going to change. But if you can talk about it, it's not holding on to try to make it what it was is the issue. It's allowing it to change and working through it. You said it very well. If someone moved, or we would just work through it, if someone got a really intense job all of a sudden and they couldn't work out in the morning anymore with me or something. Yeah, you would work through it. You would change to a Sunday brunch once in a while. You would get a weekend walk on the calendar. You would talk on the phone more and accept that we're going to have to talk on the phone more. No one likes to talk on the phone, but that's what we're going to have to do because we're not going to be able to get together as much. I schedule phone calls with people sometimes. I don't want to do that. I would much rather see them, but we can't. Our schedules are just the worst. And that's in town. I have a friend in town who did get a new job. It's a great example. She works just a ton of hours. She's a very good friend. I respect her so much. I haven't seen her in person in a long time, but we do schedule a phone call because that's all we can do. And so we'll both walk, or she'll be doing something else. She'll be driving. I'll be on a walk, and we catch up, and it's better than nothing. And it works. It's good enough for now.
It's good enough. And yes, I love everything you just said there. And I think if we see the potential in the evolution, it can be even better than it used to be sometimes. And there's so many ways we change, and thank goodness we change, right? I don't want to live life where I live in the same house forever. I have the same two friends forever. We're talking about the same things forever. That doesn't feel like curiosity and fulfillment and fun living to me. So, of course, if we're doing things differently, things are going to change. And even with that friend for a while, she lived here in Chicago. She doesn't live here anymore. We started doing walks certain mornings with the baby. The baby's there, but the baby was just being a baby. We're talking, right? And I don't know if we would have had an hour dedicated walk if we were just two adult working people, but that was a way she was going to take the baby out for a walk anyway. I could join in. That was a way for us to spend time together. I don't even think we would have done that if we were just meeting for like girlfriends walking. And I have a friend in another state and we have a phone date scheduled every single week. And I love it. And of course, it doesn't work at the same time every week. And somebody has a hair appointment, somebody has a meeting, and we have to reschedule it, but we do. And now we have a really strong phone relationship. And as weird as that sounds, of course, I'd rather be with her in real life until we live in the same state again. I'd rather be able to pick up the phone anytime. And then you don't have that weird barrier. You haven't talked to somebody for a year. So then it's really hard to call. We can just call each other at the store, right? And be like, I'm at the store, black or brown. What should I do?
I love it because you're way past the catch up loop, the catch up where you can't get out of the long, how's work going? You have to tell her about the podcast and the business and your bigger business and all these things. She knows all that. So you can really just decide what color boots you're buying. It feels like an in town friend. That's so nice, even though she's out of town. One of the bigger divides, I think, that change a relationship way more, no one talks about this enough, actually, than whether someone has kids or doesn't have kids, is really health. And it doesn't matter if you have kids or not. If your health is an issue, it could be something as simple as you broke your leg or something much more serious. I don't know what you're dealing with or not, but what we are seeing out there in the world, some diagnosis of some kind. It's these different pulls in our time. There's so much focus. I agree with you. There's a lot of articles and things about child free versus having kids. There's many things that can influence the reason a friendship needs to change. And having children or not having children is really just one of them.
Yes. Health didn't even come into my mind.
It's so big because somebody is suddenly going through chemo. I mean, that's their entire life. God willing, not forever, that they should recover. And a lot of people do these days at a time where people can go through treatment for a long time and come out on the other side. But that's kind of what they're doing for the next year. And everything is about that. And you can show up and bring food and you can help give rides and do all the things a good friend knows to do. That friend might not be able to focus on your needs that much that year. Probably not. They might try on that car ride to ask about you, but they're really focused on their health. It's so acute. And the friend who's not dealing with that issue can start to slip away a little because they're not as engrossed in this health crisis. They're showing up as a friend, but it's not happening to them. So they can try to understand, but they'll never quite understand. And I hear from people a lot on this. That's why I'm saying I am very lucky. I'm very healthy. I have not had any health crisis, but I hear from so many people who have, and they're very disappointed by their friends. And I wonder on the other side, is there anything their friends could have really done to make up for the fact that their year sucks so bad now? Probably not. I don't know that there's enough driving, enough showing up with food that would make up for the fact that everything's changed. Everything's different.
Okay, that's interesting. So, yeah, from your perspective, when people write in with this or share these stories with you where they're disappointed in their friends, is there something that we're missing as people who just aren't in that moment or we're not in the middle of a crisis? Is there something we could be doing better?
Everyone seems to think so, but everyone wants something different. And so that makes me feel this is very negative, is what makes me feel sort of hopeless about it sometimes, about this specific topic, is that the people who write to me, somebody wishes their friends would check in more. Someone wishes their friends wouldn't text so much. It's annoying. They would rather they text less. Again, everyone's different. So you may just have to ask your friend, or I wouldn't put the onus on them necessarily to tell you what they need. Start by doing what you would naturally do. If you would bring food, bring food. If you would call, call. If you would text, text. I think it's okay to check in at a certain point and say, I know everyone's different and you might wish I texted less or texted more. Will you tell me? Because I want to do what's helpful to you. Just have real conversations.
It's so interesting that when people are having these feelings, their instinct is to reach out to you as a stranger versus going to the person and just saying, hey, I wish you were doing this differently. How do we do that? You've given us some helpful actual language on how to start a conversation and to remind people we're only going here because we really care about the friendship. What else do you see? Do you ever have something where you feel like you wish you could just shake people and say, just do this in your friendship?
There's two different things that make me want to shake people. I'll get letters that really list off all these things about their friend that bothers them. They don't do this. They don't ask me questions. They don't ever call. They're really inconsiderate, or I think they might be cheating on their taxes. I don't know, so much stuff. And my form's anonymous on purpose. I use some for my newsletter and I use some in the episodes, but I don't want to be getting into an endless back and forth with strangers. That's just not the nature of what I do. So I'll sometimes do episodes or newsletters that take themes from a lot of letters. And I wrote something once I really believe so strongly, which is you should be friends with people you like. Period. If you have this whole laundry list of things you want to change about your friend, it's a beauty of friendship. We don't need to have just one. So starting with that's my advice to most people is you should be friends with people you like. You're not going to change this person. You can change how a person treats you, or well, at least address it. You're not going to change who they are. You don't have to be in this friendship. That's the choice. Friendship is a choice. It's one of the few things we get to choose in this life is who we're friends with and who we stay friends with, who we make an effort with. Another shakable thing is that your friend is not a mind reader. So, like we've been talking about, if you don't communicate, they're not going to know what you're thinking. And I'm glad people write to me because sometimes it just gets it off their chest. I've had people write to me and at the end say, just writing this was helpful. And I'm so glad because I can't even respond. I don't have their email address. So I'm glad it was helpful. Sometimes people just need to get it out and feel like they are venting and someone's listening. And I am listening and I'm taking the themes and I'm seeing what people are thinking out there. But yeah, your friends can't read your mind and you aren't going to fix tons of things about another person. You're just not.
Do you think people give up on friendships too quickly or let it fade away because we don't want to have the hard conversation or we don't want to say the thing or we're mad at them, but we don't want to confront them about it? Do we end things too quickly? Or is there another side to that where, based on what you just said, that we should be friends with people we enjoy and we like? Should we be ending more friendships? Where are we in that equation?
That's a really good question. I hadn't really thought about that and how they are such mirrors of each other. Just based on the stuff that comes to me, and it's probably the nature of why people write to me, I would say the second one more, that people are overly holding on to things because of history. And I, by the way, I'm a huge fan of longstanding friendships. I mean, I'm a big advocate of all this work we need to do to maintain friendships. Much of it is just accepting we are all different, giving people the benefit of the doubt, not assuming the worst, all those. Those are important life skills to have. If you've done all those things and still there's all these issues, I do think it's we're overly holding on to things. And it might be because social media shows us all these pictures of friends going out and doing things, and there's just desperation that we may feel to have that certain social life. And
Mhm.
you don't need to have all that. You don't need to have a ton of friends. You need a couple close friends to feel a sense of belonging, to feel like someone cares about you. It is nice to have different layers of friendship. I think that rounds out our lives. But in terms of close, close, close friends, so close to the point that you feel it's worth talking to them about some issue, you can't maintain 10 friendships like that where you feel you would have a right to address their behavior. I mean, that's an intimate friendship. The other stuff, you could let that friendship, you don't have to end it. I don't like full endings if you can avoid it. I think that realistically, life gets connected in weird ways. You never know when you're going to run into someone or someone who's connected to that person. If you can allow the friendship to soften a bit and not be as close without a full breakup, that is probably for the best. It's very hard to fully end a friendship without it coming back to just haunt you and take up as much of your emotional space as when you were in the friendship.
I appreciate that release. I think sometimes we are too uptight with, I don't know if it's putting pressure on ourselves or pressure on the other person or both. If our friendship existed one way and we did this amount of stuff together and we saw each other this often and it's not that way anymore, I feel like we can get really uptight about trying to get back to where we were. But sometimes it's just a totally new and different thing. I feel like this example is coming up more in my world. Some friends are drinking less alcohol. Some friends are still drinking alcohol. Some people aren't drinking at all. And if you've had a social relationship built around that to some extent, and now those habits are changing, what does that look like? What do we do together? Where do we go? How do we spend time? Is this something this person doesn't want to do anymore? I don't know. It's something that's tangential to health, but it's just out there, right? And there's a million other examples like that.
That's a great one, by the way. That's a great example. Like we said, health, having kids, not having kids, starting a new, really intense job. Drinking, not drinking is a big one. And glad you brought it up because, yeah, that's a huge piece of the social element that either you are doing or actively not doing. So it would have to change if that's the only way the two people saw each other because they would go out for drinks. Either you have to find a new activity or you're genuinely not going to see that person as much. You're not going to necessarily replace that happy hour every week with a walk every week. It might not work because the schedule might not work. So you may only see that person once a month for a walk, and that's okay.
Yes, that's the thing, right? That's okay. It's not about getting one person to follow suit. We're all going to keep drinking or we're all going to quit drinking. It's not about that. It's just about whatever the shift is, trying to be okay with it. And as you said, seeing them when you can, seeing them when you do. And maybe for this chapter, that's enough.
Most people just want to know you're thinking of them. I really find, even if you can't spend as much time together, as much as I complain about the phone and I feel like it gets in the way of deeper relationships sometimes, it does help us keep those 200 hours going. Texting, I don't feel like counts the same amount of time, but it's not nothing. It does count for something. It does keep a touch base going. And sometimes that's enough in between to make somebody feel Emily's thinking about me. We do still have a relationship. It just not hearing from that person can feel awful. Just a little text here and there, a meme, something funny. I don't think it's enough to sustain a close friendship, but it's enough to keep a decent friendship going for a bit if life is just in a certain stage where you cannot get together.
It reminds me of birthdays. Did you do a whole episode on birthdays?
I did. I would like to do more because birthdays are really fraught. I don't even think I did enough on it. My short episode on the birthday, I do a monthly friendship challenge, and April's challenge was to simply acknowledge your friend's birthday. And because people are on social media less, some people like the drinking. It's a little bit of a trend, which is both, I think, are positive trends. That's just my opinion, to drink a little less, to be on social media less. Those are all healthy things. If you're going to be on social media less, but for the last 18 years, you have used social media to know your friends' birthdays, you're going to miss your friends' birthdays. So my challenge was simply make sure you put your friends' birthdays in your calendar and acknowledge the birthday. And a text might be enough because it feels terrible when someone doesn't acknowledge your birthday. And it's the easiest way to make a friend know that they matter to you. So easy.
I loved that episode. I love that you do the friendship challenges too. And I've been keeping up with those and going back to listening. And it's so cool. That's the thing. You call them challenges, but they're not that hard. You can put them in your calendar. And I have friends where our whole relationship at this point is that we text each other on our birthday. And it's enough. Maybe we became friends 10 years ago at an early job and we don't have anything in common anymore and we don't live in the same state anymore. But I remember them and I think fondly of them and I hope they're doing well. And we say that to one another on our birthdays and that's it. And I feel great about that. I would so much rather keep that going than have nothing with the person, yet I also don't need more.
Yes, I love those kind of friendships where it's mutual like that, where nobody's trying to do more and everyone's happy with it. I had a live show in Chicago this summer for the podcast. It was really exciting. And one of the things that I was so touched about, and I'm from Chicago, I live in Minneapolis now, but I've been gone 25 years. Some people came to that who I'm really just Facebook friends with now. Active Facebook friends. If I see their stuff, I like it. I don't just ignore it. I genuinely comment on their things. But when I go back for Thanksgiving or different times to see my mom, I don't necessarily see these people. They aren't people I'm in that close of touch with. I may not even have their phone number, but they came to the show. And I thought that was so nice. And they didn't need to because there's no expectation. I don't come see you on Thanksgiving. You don't need to come to my show and buy a ticket. That's okay. And they did, and if they came to Minneapolis or something, I'd be there in a second. I love that. I think it's the best, but you have to have an open mind about how friendships work and the different layers of friendship to understand that not everyone can be in touch every week. Not everybody can be a texting or a meme buddy. We would just never get off our phone. You have to have some of these relationships where you do only have that touch base once a year and let that fill little pockets of your life and add to your sense of who you are and memory of where you came from. And it doesn't have to be so current all the time and so constant.
That is so sweet that they came to do that.
But it was really nice.
I'm so happy for you. I love that that exists. I love that we can be in those roles with one another.
Yeah, same.
What do you see as the future of friendship? You touched on social media. We've had conversations on this podcast about the loneliness epidemic, work from home, things in our lives that have made us a little bit more isolated. What do you see as the future of where friendship is headed?
Oh, that's such a good question. So it is something I've been thinking about actually. I think with AI and the blur and confusion that people are having about what a friend is and what it means to be in connection with somebody. I said it earlier in the episode, but I believe it even more strongly now with AI. A friend is someone who helps you grow as a person. And I mean that on like a deep spiritual level. That is part of the purpose of friendship in our life is to help us be better people in every single way. A friend should be someone you like. A friend should also be someone who brings out the best in you. And what AI does is agree with you on everything and tell you you're the best and you're so smart, at least with ChatGPT. There's so many different ones. I have used ChatGPT and I know they're trying to make it less just agreeable. That's something they're always tweaking. Sometimes I'll run title ideas by it for episodes. And it will say, that was a great choice, Nina. And it gives me all these compliments, but I actually have to prompt it a few more times to give me the other options. And human friends, hopefully, they're not going to disagree with everything you say because that would be exhausting. But it's a different give and take. They're not only there to butter you up and tell you how great you are and always be there when they need you. Your friends disappoint us. Friends challenge our opinions on things, hopefully. And one of my favorite quotes from a guest of mine, her name's Ruchi Koval. She said, there's a name for people who never disappoint you. And those people are called acquaintances. And there's nothing wrong with an acquaintance. Acquaintance is wonderful. It's good to have acquaintances, but those aren't your real friends. Those aren't your deep friends. They maybe would be a real friend. There's nothing wrong with those people if they had 200 hours with you. We miss acquaintances during COVID, so no shade to acquaintances. Those are important people in the world, but they're never going to disappoint you because they're not that close to you. And the future of friendship is accepting that we actually need to grow and to be pushed. And that takes human connection, human to human.
I don't even know where to go from there because I feel like that's a mic drop line to me. I'm really glad you brought back what you said in the beginning, that friends are people who help us grow. And I thought about asking you in this, how do you define a friend? And then I was like, oh, do I want to ask that question? But I think it's one of those things, everybody knows what a friend is, but everybody's answer to that would probably be different. And that importance of stretching us, pushing us, helping us get to the next level as people and achieve our goals and all of those facets. I don't want us to forget that piece. It isn't just about getting along all the time and loving the same things. It's that self-development piece.
And there's all the things we know about that I would define a friendship is where you show up for the person and the person shows up for you. And where I just try to get the message out in the world, I feel like it's my mission. We talked about it a lot in this episode, which is to help people see it doesn't mean mutually always at the same time. So as long as over the course of time, let's say you've been friends with someone for 10 years, it's just no different than a romantic relationship. Sometimes somebody's putting in a little more because they have more to give at that time. So it can't be all give, it can't be all take, but it's not going to be equal give and take every moment of the friendship. It's just not. Sometimes you have to carry the friendship a little bit for the two of you, and then the other person takes a turn. It could be years.
It's endless. And that's the beauty of it. When you're down, they're up. When you're up, they're down. I don't know. I couldn't have the energy of everybody being on the same page all the time anyway. That doesn't make sense. Nina, for everybody who has loved this and wants to continue learning from your insights and advice, where is the best place for people to find you, your show, and connect with you?
Thank you for asking. The show is Dear Nina, conversations about friendship found everywhere. Of course, you listen to podcasts, and my newsletter is dearnina.substack.com. And that's where I delve into the themes of each episode a little more, and that's where I answer anonymous questions.
I love it. Thank you for doing this. We'll make sure all of that is tagged in the show notes, of course. I feel like I'm friends with you now. We don't have 200 hours, but we're starting. We're Chicago girls. I really, really appreciate the time.
Thank you for having me.
If this episode sparked something new in you, come join the conversation on Substack at CuriousLifeOfAChildFreeWoman.substack.com. Podcasting is amazing, but I have been craving a more two-way conversation with you, and the Curious Life Club on Substack provides that. Subscribe for free bonus content, weekly reflections, and sneak peeks into what's next. Of course, don't forget to follow on Instagram, Curious Life of a Child-Free Woman, for more stories, guest highlights, and moments that remind us why curiosity is so important. Until next time, let's stay curious together.